I took a lot of heat for being the only Republican in the Senate to vote no on what was called the Asian American hate crime bill. It was Senator Hirono's bill. This is a few weeks ago. The reason I voted no is because it didn't have anything to do with hate crimes. Those are already illegal. It gave the Department of Justice the power to define hate incidents, which is offensive speech.
Yep.
So it gives the government the power to decide, well, this speech is offensive, that speech is offensive, and then it gives DOJ the power to help states and local governments track it and monitor it and create a database. I was like, this is crazy. I mean, this is a major First Amendment problems here. So I'm against hate crimes, but I'm not for the government censoring and defining and tracking speech, for heaven's sake. So this kind of thing is becoming more and more common, and we need conservatives and constitutionalists to call it out, to stand up and have the courage of their convictions.
Yeah, so since you do care about that old piece of paper that set up this country, I thought maybe you could explain, I talk about it a lot on the show, but I think you'll be able to explain it pretty clearly. The difference, the sort of guarantee of the Constitution of equality versus what the left is now pushing on us, which is equity.
Well, listen, I mean, the equality guarantee is that as citizens, we have the same rights to stand before the law and to participate in our democracy as any other citizen does. And the country is founded on this premise in many ways. And this is sort of our core bedrock guarantee that, you don't have to be born to a certain family or born in a certain zip code or have a certain amount of wealth in order to matter in this country. And we think that every person matters. I look back to, Thomas Jefferson has this great phrase where he says that cultivators of the earth, farmers, are the most valuable of citizens. Now, I come from a farming family, so I heard that a lot growing up, and I tend to agree with it. But it was a revolutionary statement at Jefferson's time because, if you look back in human history, people who worked with their hands were usually dismissed. I was like, that's manual labor. That's for people who can't get educated, who aren't smart. And the idea that manual laborers would have a role, would be a citizen and would have a role in democracy, I mean, absolutely not. The Romans, for instance, the Greeks, they would never have allowed that. Our country is premised on the idea that folks who work for a living are valuable and that everybody should stand as an equal before the law. And it's the law that should rule, the law made by the people, and not any particular person or group of people. So that is a long answer, I guess, to what I think our core constitutional commitment is. What the left wants, though, now is identity politics. I mean, what they want to say is that they want to define this group, that group. They want to put Americans, they want to divvy us up by race. They want to divvy us up by identities that they will construct, that the left will construct. They'll tell us which identities are legitimate and which not. And they want to divvy us up along those lines. And they want to pit one group against another. And that's what they are doing. That's what a lot of this woke agenda is. That's what a lot of this critical race theory agenda really and movement really amounts to. And that I would submit to you is severely damaging to the kind of equality that the Constitution actually guarantees.
Have you seen this bill? I think it's just circulating in the last little bit. It has something to do with the COVID relief bill where they are actually going to help farmers of color before they help white farmers. Have you heard about this?
Yeah. In fact, that's law. I mean, it
actually is the law now? I mean,
it is the law of the land. Yes, it is the law of the land.
So what do we do? What do we do? Systemic racism is here. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's here and in force. Absolutely. It was in the last COVID relief bill, and I tell you, this stuff it's just really extraordinary. I took a lot of heat for being the only Republican in the Senate to vote no on what was called the Asian American hate crime bill. It was Senator Hirono's bill. This is a few weeks ago. The reason I voted no is because it didn't have anything to do with hate crimes. Those are already illegal. It gave the Department of Justice the power to define hate incidents, which is offensive speech.
Yep.
So it gives the government the power to decide, well, this speech is offensive, that speech is offensive, and then it gives DOJ the power to help states and local governments track it and monitor it and create a database. I was like, this is crazy. I mean, this is a major First Amendment problems here. So I'm against hate crimes, but I'm not for the government censoring and defining and tracking speech, for heaven's sake. So this kind of thing is becoming more and more common, and we need conservatives and constitutionalists to call it out, to stand up and have the courage of their convictions.
Do you think the legal system is the only thing that fixes that? Like, to me, that being a part of the package, as you're saying, it is law now. I mean, I just heard just this morning that there is a farmer who is now going to sue So I guess I must have in fact known that it had been passed. But there's a white farmer who's going to sue because he is not, by the color of his skin, going to get the same relief as another farmer because of the color of their skin. Is the only recourse really that it has to get to the courts, and then basically we have to pray that the courts do the right thing?
I think it is now for that package. Once it becomes law, then the only recourse you have left is to try to go to the courts and to try to rely on the Constitution and defend your rights. And look, I'm a constitutional lawyer by trade. I was a prosecutor in the state of Missouri as Attorney General, and so I'm certainly not averse to going to the courts. But I will say this, that it would be much, much better if we actually stopped these kind of destructive policies from becoming law in the first place, if we actually stopped the woke agenda from getting enacted into law. And we need more folks who are willing to stand up and do that. And I think right now there's a real sentiment of, well, we just have to kind of go along in Washington, D.C. We don't have to go along. It doesn't have to be like this. We can present a credible alternative, and we can make the case for the core principles of our Constitution, and we need to.
Do you think part of this is just that a certain set of Republicans kind of want to be liked? They just, the sort of Mitt Romney, Liz Cheney, that battle that's happening now, where it's sort of the media loves these people that only years ago they were telling everyone that Mitt Romney's racist because he was running against Barack Obama, but now he's a hero because he's sort of against, say, Trump or you or Ted Cruz, something like that, the guys who are actually doing something. But I keep calling them the pet Republicans because they can get people on MSNBC to say nice things about them.
I do think that the media is really invested, the legacy media, establishment media, the leftists are really invested in this idea of a Republican civil war. And so they really want to create conflict and play it up between establishment Republicans and conservatives or populist Republicans. I can just tell you, from being home in the state of Missouri and talking to actual people, actual voters, they have no interest in a Republican civil war. There is no such thing. They've made up their mind. They're like, what's the conflict? Right. They don't want to go back to open borders and to ruinous trade policies and to liberal globalism. They don't want to go back to that at all. So they're like, what's the conflict you're talking about? No. They want to go forward. They want to know what we're going to do to stop this radical left woke agenda that President Biden is trying to force down our throats, is trying to ramrod through the Senate. And then they want to know going forward what we're going to do to actually defend our Constitution, to actually get jobs back in this country, manufacturing back in this country, and give working people a voice again. That's what they want to know about. And I think that this media narrative that you're pointing to and talking about, it's false, and it's meant to distract from where people really are.
So what should the messaging be? I guess that's sort of what you're saying. What should the messaging be for Republicans going forward? Because I feel like it's still, nobody really knows who's in charge. Is this Trump's party still? Is it going some other way? Like, what do you think that messaging looks like?
Well, I think we ought to listen to our voters. I think what our voters want is they want us to be a pro-worker family, a pro-worker party, rather, that we are for working Americans, that we are going to work to get good jobs that pay good wages for folks right where they are, that you shouldn't have to move to a foreign country in order to get a good job, that you shouldn't have to move halfway around the country to get a good job. We need to be the party of working people. We need to be the party of families. We need to be out there fighting for families to be able to afford to start a family and to raise a family. And by the way, to be able to make their own decisions about their family. I talk about this in the book. Big tech shouldn't raise our kids. We should raise our kids. And American families want to have the authority and the power to raise their kids and tell big tech, get out of my life. I want to raise my own children. So I think as a party, who are we? We're the party of working America. We're the party of working families in this country. And we need to be advancing an agenda that's pro-worker and pro-family. I think that is our future as a party. If it's not, if Republicans are not willing to be the party of working people and to be the party of working families, then we're not going to have a future as a party. It's just that simple. That is who our voters are. And if we're not going to be responsive to them, if we're going to be the party of Wall Street, or if we're going to be the party of the globalists, we're not going to have a party.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.